guys, and welcome to the video. Here today we are going to talk about this huge story that has been developing over the past 24 hours or so. Team Xecuter leaders have been arrested and charged in a federal indictment. Now this story is here over at GBA Temp as well as Logic Sunrise, so I'll be going back and forth between both because each one has a little bit of information that the other doesn't have. So we're going to talk about what we know right now, and then, what could happen, what's going to happen, with SXOS possibly. So we're going to have to throw a little bit of maybe speculation or try to guesstimate what's going to come out of all of this, and then talk a little bit about Nintendo and stuff like that. So yeah, let's go ahead. Let's get started. First, we know that it's been 3 people that have been arrested. The names have been released as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and try and read off those names. I'm probably going to butcher some of them, but here we go. Max Luan, 48, a French national from Avignon. Yuaning Chen, 35, a Chinese national from Shenzhen, China. And Gary Bowser, 51, a Canadian national from Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. Now, it also states here that Luan and Bowser were arrested overseas and that the United States will seek Luan's extradition to stand trial in the United States. Bowser was arrested and deported from the Dominican Republic and appeared today in a federal court in New Jersey. And by today, they, I believe, meant yesterday, which was Friday, October 2nd. And by the way, guys, this information that GBA Temp has, Logic Sunrise has, and everybody else is posting has come directly from the United States Department of Justice. This is news that they shared. The post is actually right here. I'll go ahead and I'll link it down in the description. There's even a little bit more interesting information that's here that's not on the other sites. But anyway, another thing that needs to be noted here is that the FBI has been involved as well, and each defendant is going to be charged with 11 felony counts. That's not 11 felony counts total between all 3 of them. Each one of them is going to be charged with 11 felony counts. These range from wire fraud to trafficking circumvention devices and conspiracy to commit money laundering. And that's just 3. There's still like 8 more. So anyway, this is absolutely 100% serious. It's not like a slap on the wrist, little misdemeanor type deal. Hey, don't do it again and go home. This is absolutely no joke what they are facing. Now, if we look here at this statement that the Department of Justice released, there's a few extra interesting things here, starting off with, it's stating that, yeah, 2 members have been arrested. The third one, by the way, they're waiting for extradition. That person has already been arrested, so they're waiting for them to be extradited to the US. But they say that Team Xecuter hacked popular video game consoles so that they could be used to play unauthorized or pirated copies of video games. Some of these consoles they targeted were the Switch, the 3DS, the NES Classic Edition, the Sony PlayStation Classic, and the Microsoft Xbox consoles. And then a little bit further down, it states that according to court documents, the Team Xecuter criminal enterprise is comprised of over a dozen individual members that are located around the world. And then a little bit further down from that, it states that Team Xecuter used a variety of product names for its devices, such as the Gateway 3DS, the Stargate, the True Blue Mini, the Classic to Magic, and the SX line of devices that included SXOS, the SX Pro, the SX Lite, and the SX Core. And we know, of course, these last 2 were those mod chips that were released, I believe, back in May or June of this year, which pretty much made every single Switch and Switch Lite completely hackable. And then near the end, it just goes over some miscellaneous information that I pretty much covered already. It does state here that the case is being investigated jointly by the FBI and HSI. HSI is Homeland Security Investigations, and that, of course, these charges are merely allegations and the defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty. But, of course, that's always the case. So now there's a few things, of course, we don't know. One of them is these charges that they're being faced with. Does it have to do with all of these devices and softwares and things that they sold? At first, I thought it was strictly only because of the mod chips, but it doesn't seem that it's just because of that. It looks like it has to do with everything that they've been selling over the years, like the Gateway 3DS, the Stargate, the True Blue Mini, and all of those I had mentioned before. So it's not specific if, it has to do with all these devices or just some, but since they listed them here, I'm guessing it probably is all of them. All right, so for right now, that's pretty much what we know. Now let's do a little bit of speculation here. These guys, each one has these, 11 felony charges that they're facing. Felony charges carry an up to X amount of time in prison. It could be a matter of months, it could be a matter of years, who knows? But they have 11 felonies each that they're being charged with. So if they're found, guilty on all 11 of them, they could be facing some serious time in prison, not to mention a crap load of money in fines, because there's going to be fines that go along with this. So maybe what the FBI might do is cut them a slightly better deal if they turn over some of their friends, if they rat out some of the other members of Team Xecuter, because there's over a dozen of them. So maybe they might work out a deal, and they could say something like, they could go to each one of these 3 guys, they'll have them separated, and they'll say, look, we are making this offer to each one of you guys. So the first one that comes through is the one that gets the better deal. And then each person is going to think, well, wait a minute, what if one of the other guys accepts and then they get the better deal and I don't? So maybe I better jump on that right now, because they know they may be faced with, some serious jail time, some fines and whatnot. So it's possible something like that could happen. And another thing that we need to take into consideration is that although we don't know what the financial situation is of any of these guys, I really don't think they're like multi-millionaires or even close to anything like that. I'm sure they made a few bucks here and there, but there were over a dozen people that, they had to share in the wealth. So I'm sure they're not filthy rich or anything even remotely close. If they want proper legal representation, they're going to have to pay for it. It's not going to be cheap, and it's going to cost them. So that is just going to complicate their problems even more. So let's talk about the wild card here, and that is Nintendo. Because after all of this is said and done with the FBI, with these 3 guys, or however many it ends up being, it's possible that these guys then are going to have to face Nintendo in court. Nintendo did not go after Team Xecuter only because they didn't know who they were. Well, that's changed. They know who they are now. So after all of this is done with the FBI, however long this may take, Nintendo can then go after these individuals to get compensation for their damages, their losses, all of that junk. We just saw them win a case against modchips.com. I think just 2 or 3 days ago, as of the making of this video. That was one of the resellers that was selling the mod chips for the Switch and the Switch Lite. And now modchips.com is going to have to pay Nintendo $2 million. They have to destroy whatever stock they have left of any of the mod chips, and they cannot deal with this type of stuff again. That's part of the deal, which modchips has agreed to. And Nintendo pretty much always wins these things. So we'll see after all of this is over what Nintendo decides to do, because if they decide to go after these guys after all of this is over, then that means that right after this stuff with the FBI, these Team Xecuter dudes are going to have to turn right around and face Nintendo in a lawsuit. Now, I'm not saying that that is going to happen, but it's a possibility that Nintendo can go down that route. Okay, so real quick, let's wrap things up by talking about the future of Team Xecuter and SXOS. Team Xecuter, this is pretty much a no-brainer. We know that's going to be the end of them. I'd be shocked if they lasted beyond this. Their Twitter profile or the Twitter account seems to be gone. It says the account doesn't exist, and I believe this was the official one for Team Xecuter, and it's not there. The site is still up. We'll see how long that lasts. So yeah, I'd be shocked if Team Xecuter continued. Now, as far as SXOS is concerned, I don't see how that would keep getting updated, and the only thing that would make sense would be to make it open source, so that way other developers can get their hands on it, they can update it and remove that license feature, so that way everyone can use it. That's what makes sense. Unfortunately, there's no money behind that, and because there isn't, I doubt the remaining members of Team Xecuter would do something like that, even though technically it would be the right thing to do, especially for the people who did buy SXOS. But anyway, we'll see. Only time will tell. And that is going to do it for the video. Let me know what you guys think about everything going down with Team Xecuter and these arrests, what you think the future of the team is, what you think is going to happen to SXOS. You know, I appreciate you watching. Much love going out to everyone out there. Be careful, be safe, but have fun, and we'll catch you on the next one.